Jrue Holiday steals the ball with 16 seconds left. So obviously he doesn't have to take a shot. He can just sit there and wait for the Suns to foul him. He's a 78% career foul shooter, so that was the safe play. Instead, he throws an alley-oop. He takes the risk of throwing an alley-oop from the three-point line to Giannis, a horrible free throw shooter, as we all know. So Chris Paul, number one, it had to be a great pass, and it was a great pass. But Chris Paul also may have been able, he couldn't, but Jrue didn't necessarily know this at the time. He could have gotten to Giannis and grabbed him or just held him down so he couldn't even jump to finish the play. And now you send a poor free throw shooter to the line with like 13 seconds left with it, right. So giving Phoenix a good chance to come back down. So they took the risk. And that really is emblematic of what the Bucks have done this entire season to get them on the verge of winning a championship. Before the year in December, they go out, they trade George Hill, Eric Bledsoe, R.J. Hampton, and 2 future first-round picks for a 31-year-old, injury-prone Jrue Holiday and sign him to a big deal. And so that was a risk. And then, because think if Giannis decides to leave. Now you're stuck with Jrue, who's really good, but he's not like a perennial all-star. And then Giannis takes the risk of signing the 5-year contract extension with Milwaukee before the season. I and others thought he was crazy. I was like, man, why don't you just play out the season and see where it goes, see how good the Bucks look, and then decide you can either stay there or go elsewhere where you might have a better chance of winning a championship. This is no super team. So now they're on the verge of a championship, high risk, high reward. The last two, if Phoenix or if Milwaukee wins this, the last 2 small market teams who have won championships took huge risks. I just laid out Milwaukee's. We remember Toronto trading for Kawhi Leonard when you knew it was probably a 1-year rental, and they go ahead and get a championship. So no risk it, no biscuit is my takeaway.
Oh, I love how you said if Milwaukee goes on to win it. So the biggest takeaway for me on this play is if the Bucks go on to win it, this will go down as the greatest play in Bucks history, but forgotten. Like, this is one of those plays and one of those moments that changes the game, changes the series. But people forget. People are going to talk about Giannis being MVP. They're going to be highlighting all of the big plays in the game, but they're not going to single this play out. This was huge. Jrue Holiday, this is why you bring in Jrue Holiday. Jrue Holiday had an inconsistent year. It really didn't click for him the way they wanted it to. So when you think about Jrue Holiday, this is why you brought him in, not for the regular season. You brought Jrue Holiday in to get the job done in the postseason, to win the championship. So for him to step up big, not only on this play, but to add 27 points, like, that is phenomenal. This is what you want out of your point guard, the guy that you signed to come in and help Giannis out. They went all in, and it's paying out for the Bucks right now, Nick. So, look, the series isn't over, okay? There's still a big if, but Jrue Holiday and those boys, that trio stepped up, and they provided a great win for the Milwaukee Bucks and that whole fan base.
And because I think the Bucks are going to win, I don't think this play will ever be forgotten. If the Suns were to come back to win the series, then maybe. But this is wild. This is what I love about sports so much, is how thin the margins are, not just in a game, but in legacies and in careers. If Devin Booker just pulls up right there, he was so hot. PJ Tucker has not really been able to defend him. He just pesters him. If he pulls up right there and makes the jump shot, then it's Suns up 1. Milwaukee's in the half court where they have struggled all postseason. And the Suns are a massive favorite to win the title. This becomes that quickly, not the Giannis series, but the Devin Booker series. Everyone's talking about your storyline of Monty benches him in Game 4, in the fourth quarter of Game 3, pardon me. How does he respond? 40-point game, then 40 points in the game winner. Instead, it's the lowest moment, singular moment of Booker's career. It's the highest moment of Jrue and Giannis's career. And Chris Paul, who has kind of been the story of these playoffs, Broussard mentioned maybe you could have wrapped him up. Here's the other thing. If Chris Paul just lets him dunk it, the Suns are fine. They're fine. They're down 3 with 14 seconds left. A timeout in the ball. Chris Paul did the worst thing he could have done there, which is a borderline dangerous, dirty play, but it's the final seconds of the finals. You're doing anything you can. It's fine. But you got to stop him. You can't foul him and let him dunk it. So all of it turns in, 3.5 seconds. And so I thought my takeaway is everything about it. And I thought Broussard was mentioning the risk. The word I would use is trust. They trusted that Giannis would resign. They trusted that Jrue would step up. And then Jrue trusted that Giannis could go get this dunk.
So, Broussard, you talked about sort of the Bucks, what this meant to the Bucks franchise and how this has sort of played out through the year. I want to talk specifically about Giannis, because this felt like we're getting coronation tremors, coronation vibes. And the fact that LeBron was on the sidelines and is in the picture of the dunk, I don't think is it is a coincidence, but it doesn't feel like a coincidence in the larger narrative of the NBA. The idea that he's cheering on Chris Paul, like, we'll get one for the team banana boat, and missed out on it, and like Giannis seems to be taking the throne from LeBron. And granted, like 2 years ago, he prematurely put the crown on, but now it feels like he's not crowning himself. It just feels like after this series is over, if the Bucks win, that collectively, NBA fans, media, other players are going to sit back and say, you know what? This guy dominated on offense. He dominated on defense. He had 2 of the biggest signature plays in recent finals history. The way that he is conducting his post-game press conferences with a level of like CEO-ness. It's like, I'm the CEO of the league. Here's how I feel. He just feels like the face of the league. Are you feeling coronation vibes? And it's not a violent takeover from LeBron, but it just feels like he has ascended, and this is going to be his league if the Bucks win.
Yeah, well, look, the Suns are going to come back and win, first of all. But I'll play with you. Let's say Phoenix goes ahead and wins this series. Let's say that was for Brandon. Let's say Phoenix goes along and wins this series. Milwaukee does win the series. Right.
Yeah.
Bucks.
I agree with you, Wilds. And let's look at a few things. This is the super team era. Okay? There were people, I didn't go far, but there were people saying when Giannis signed with the Bucks for 5 years, they were like, he just decided he's not going to win a championship. He's not going to win a championship, at least in the next 5 years. And then by then he'll be older. It might not mean as much for his legacy. He's doomed himself. And yet he's about or may win a championship with no super team. That is huge. LeBron hasn't really done that. Kevin Durant hasn't really done that. So that would be big for Giannis's legacy. And yeah, it a lot of times the passing of the torch is to a guy that nobody expected it to be. All right, when Dwayne Wade, not that he had the torch as the best player in the world, but nobody expected him to emerge as what he did. Okay? Kawhi Leonard, nobody expected him to become what he did. And Giannis was the 15th pick in the draft, started the season slowly. Remember, they had Jabari Parker. He was supposed to be the young stud in Milwaukee. He was supposed to be the superstar coming up. And instead, it's Giannis. And so I think, that's a great point. This guy was maligned entering these playoffs. He was the one who couldn't get it done. He was the one who was a playoff failure. And now we're all talking about how mentally tough he is. And I think he's actually, within this series, I feel like he is taking his game to another level.
Yes,
because he's no longer just, when he's on the perimeter now, he's not taking bad shots. I don't mind him taking a jumper here and there, but he's not doing it a lot. Great. Yes, his decisions on the perimeter have been phenomenal.
That's right.
All right, a lot of times making better decisions than Chris Paul, and certainly in that game 4. Right. But he has made great decisions. So now we're not looking at his lack of an outside jumper as a problem. It's just like, okay, he's not great at that, but he's dominating inside, and he's on the perimeter making smart decisions. he's taking it to another level, and if they win this, it's going to be interesting to see if he can capitalize and win a few more.
But in the here and the now, if at age 24 you're league MVP, at age 25 you're league MVP and Defensive Player of the Year, and at age 26 you take the best shot Durant can possibly give you and you win. You have a monstrous record-setting NBA Finals with iconic plays on both ends, and the current best player alive hasn't played in 6 weeks, either because of injury, age, whatever people want to call it, then you get to be the best player in the league. So, Wildes, I totally agree with you. And folks were like, oh, Nick, you're saying it doesn't mean it's over for LeBron, but it means LeBron would have to go take it back. Hey, I mean, FDR was only president for 14 years. LeBron's been the best player in the league for 14 years. May of 07 to right now, this moment. It's got to end at some point. Now, does that mean he's the second best, the sixth best, the ninth best? People will debate that over the course of the year. But I think if we're being fair, Giannis would have all the check marks of, okay, he gets to be the best guy in the league after they win this series on Tuesday night.
Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from First Things First, or go watch a few segments from our other shows on FS1.